If Nietzsche walked the earth today, he wouldn't be scrolling through endless feeds, chasing likes, or unraveling over unanswered texts. He'd stand as the calmest man in the room, untouched by the emotional storms swirling around him. Why? Because Nietzsche saw through the chaos of human nature, its desires, its games, its hidden tests. He didn't flinch at the world's noise or bow to its pressures. He saw the deeper truths, especially when it came to women, power, and the silent battles of relationships. Most men today are blind to these truths, caught in cycles of need, reaction, and validation. They don't see the tests, they don't feel the pull, but Nietzsche did over a century ago. His words cut like a blade, exposing what no one dares say. Relationships are a dance of power, and women, whether they know it or not, are often the ones leading the steps. This isn't about blame, it's about clarity. Once you see what Nietzsche saw, you stop stumbling. You start walking, straight, unshaken, and free. Seeing the game for what it is. Nietzsche wasn't a romantic. He didn't see women as angels to worship or demons to fear. He saw them as part of the human game, a game of instincts, power, and survival. To him, women weren't the enemy, but they weren't the prize either. They were players in a dance older than time, testing men not out of malice, but out of nature. You, the modern man, are tested daily. She leaves your message on read. She questions your ambition. She stirs your emotions with a glance or a word. Most men react. They chase. They explain. They beg. But Nietzsche would laugh at this. Why? Because reacting is losing. Chasing is weakness. The man who sees the game doesn't play blindly. He steps back, watches, and chooses his moves. You're not here to win her approval. You're here to master yourself. Nietzsche's truth cuts deep. Women test because they must. It's not personal. It's instinct. They seek strength, not in muscles or money, but in the unshakable core of a man who knows who he is. When you chase her validation, you hand her your power. You become a puppet dancing to her strings. But the man who sees the game, he cuts those strings. He walks his own path, and she either follows or fades. This isn't cruelty, it's clarity. Stop seeing her as the goal. See her as the mirror, reflecting your strength or exposing your weakness. In today's world, the game is louder. Social media amplifies her tests. A single post can pull you into jealousy. A story can make you doubt. Most men crumble, texting too fast, liking too eagerly, proving too much. Nietzsche would call this slavery. You're not free if her silence controls you. You're not strong if her attention defines you. The first step is to see the game for what it is, a test of your resolve. Stop playing her rules. Start writing your own. Becoming the master of your need. Nietzsche's philosophy was built on power, not the kind that dominates others, but the kind that conquers self. The strongest man, he believed, is the one who needs nothing, not her approval, not her affection, not her presence. Need is a chain. It binds you to her whims, her moods, her tests. The man who breaks this chain is dangerous. He's free. Why? Because when you need nothing, you control everything. Look around. Men today wear their chains proudly. They beg for replies. They mold themselves to her likes. They trade their purpose for her smile. But Nietzsche saw through this. He knew that need is the root of weakness. The moment you crave her, she owns you. The moment you chase her, you lose yourself. The man who needs nothing, though, flips the dance. She senses it. She feels it. Your indifference isn't cold, it's magnetic. When you don't need her to feel whole, she starts to wonder. She starts to chase. Not because you tricked her, but because you became rare. This isn't about playing games, it's about becoming more. Nietzsche's Übermensch, the higher man, doesn't beg for love. He creates it within himself. He builds a world so rich, so full, that others are drawn to it. You don't need her to complete you. You're already whole. Stop seeking her validation. Start forging your purpose. In the modern world, this means turning off the notifications, silencing the noise, and focusing on what makes you undeniable. Build your body, your mind, your mission. When you need nothing, you become everything. This truth is hard. Most men recoil. They want the shortcut, the text that wins her, the line that charms her. But Nietzsche offers no shortcuts. He offers fire. Burn away your need. Let it die in the flames of your purpose. The man who emerges is untouchable. She can test you, but she can't break you. She can walk away, but you won't follow. You're not her prisoner. You're your own king. You've seen the game. You've felt its pull. Nietzsche's truth is sinking in. Relationships are a silent battlefield, and women, by instinct, test your strength. Not to wound you, but to know you. Most men fail this test, reacting, chasing, crumbling under pressure. But you're different. You're here to rise, to forge yourself into something unbreakable. Nietzsche didn't offer soft words or easy paths. He gave us fire, a way to burn away weakness and claim power. His controversial truth about women isn't a weapon against them. It's a mirror for you. Look into it. See your flaws. Then build something greater. This is the path of the Übermensch, the man who doesn't beg, doesn't break, and never bows. Staying unshaken in the storm of emotion. Nietzsche knew emotions are a trap, not because they're weak, but because they cloud. Women, he saw, often wield emotion like a blade, sharp, swift, instinctive. A cutting remark, a sudden silence, a spark of drama. These are tests, not attacks. Most men dive into the chaos, they argue, they plead, they burn, but Nietzsche would stand back smiling. Why? Because the man who stays calm in the storm holds the high ground. Clarity is power. Stillness is dominance. You know this storm. She pushes your buttons, questions your worth, stirs the air with tension. Your instinct screams to react, to defend, to explain, to win. But reaction is surrender. The moment you step into her emotional fire, you're no longer the master. You're the fuel. Nietzsche's truth is brutal. Never argue emotionally. Rise above. Watch the chaos unfold. Let her words crash like waves against a cliff. You don't move. You don't flinch. You stand. In today's world, this is harder. Social media turns emotions into wildfires. A vague post, a subtle jab, and men leap into the blaze, typing furious replies, seeking closure, proving their case. But Nietzsche would call this folly. The man who answers with silence speaks loudest. She expects you to crack. You don't. She wants you to chase. You won't. Your stillness isn't weakness. It's a fortress. When she sees you unmoved, she feels your weight. Your power, not because you shouted, but because you stayed silent. This isn't about shutting her out. It's about staying centered. You listen, you see her storm, but you don't drown in it. Nietzsche's higher man doesn't fight emotions. He transcends them. You're not her therapist or her punching bag. You're the rock she can't erode. In the modern chaos of texts, likes, and fleeting attention, this is your edge. Stay calm. Stay clear. The world will bend before a man who doesn't break. Facing the shadow within, Nietzsche spoke of the shadow, the dark corners of your soul you hide, your fears, your failures, your wounds. Most men run from these, burying them under bravado or distraction. But Nietzsche's truth is unrelenting. What you ignore controls you. Women, whether they know it or not, sense this shadow. They test it. Not out of cruelty, but instinct. A sharp word about your past, a glance that hits your insecurity. If you haven't faced your darkness, you'll bleed, you'll react, you'll fall. You've felt this. She brings up an old mistake, a moment of weakness, and you flinch. You defend, you over-explain, but Nietzsche would urge you to stop, turn inward, walk into your shadow, look at your demons, your fear of rejection, your need for approval, your buried pain. Don't run. Name them. Tame them. The man who owns his darkness becomes untouchable. She can poke at your past, but you've already faced it. She can question your worth, but you've built it brick by brick. Today, the shadow is louder. Social media mirrors it back, every flaw, every doubt, every comparison. Men scroll and shrink, measuring themselves against filtered lives, but Nietzsche's call is clear. Face your shadow or be ruled by it. This isn't therapy talk, it's war. You fight your demons in the quiet of your mind. You own your failures, not to wallow, but to forge armor. When she tests you, you don't crumble. You smile, not to charm her, but to show you've walked through hell and come out stronger. This is the heart of Nietzsche's truth. Power comes from radical self-awareness. You don't need to be perfect. You need to be whole, integrate your shadow, and no one can weaponize it against you. She'll sense it. This man doesn't hide. He doesn't break. He's faced the abyss and made it his ally. That's not just strength, that's godlike. You're waking up. Nietzsche's truth is a fire in your chest, burning away the fog of need and reaction. You see the game now, the silent tests, the dance of power. Women aren't your enemy, but they're not your salvation either. They're the mirror, reflecting your strength or exposing your cracks. Most men chase the reflection, begging it to love them. But Nietzsche's higher man, he builds the man in the mirror. He forges a soul so solid the world can't shake it. His controversial truth about women isn't a rule book for seduction. It's a call to transcend. Stop playing their game. Become the game. This is your path to power, not over her, but over yourself. Forging yourself through relentless growth. Nietzsche didn't believe in chasing applause. He believed in overcoming, not others, but yourself. Most men waste their lives competing for attention. Her likes, her glances, her approval. They perform, post, and plead, hoping to be chosen. But Nietzsche's truth is a blade. The man who competes with his past self doesn't need to beg. In today's world, this is rebellion. Social media screams for your attention, pulling you into endless comparisons. Men thirst for her double tap, her comment, her story view. They mold themselves to trends, chasing fleeting relevance. But Nietzsche would spit on this. Why? Because it's slavery. You're not free if her approval shapes you. You're not strong if her silence breaks you. Turn away. Build something real. Your career, your discipline, your vision. Every rep in the gym, every page you read, every step toward your mission, it's a brick in your fortress. She'll notice, not because you begged her to, but because power is magnetic. This isn't about becoming a monk, it's about becoming a king. You don't reject women. You reject the need to prove yourself to them. You don't chase their light, you become the flame. When you focus on your growth, the world shifts. She stops being the prize, you are. And the irony? That's when she can't look away. Wielding power with restraint. Nietzsche admired strength, but not the reckless kind. He valued the man who could destroy, but chooses not to. This is the heart of his truth about women. They're drawn to the edge, not the explosion. Most men swing between extremes, too soft or too wild. The nice guy grovels, trading his spine for her smile. The reckless man lashes out, burning bridges with his rage. But Nietzsche's higher man, he's the blade sheathed in velvet, dangerous but controlled. She senses the fire in you, but you don't let it rage unchecked. You've seen the nice guy fail. He's safe, predictable, forgettable. He agrees, apologizes, bends until he breaks. Women don't hate him, they ignore him. Then there's the reckless man, loud and chaotic, spilling his anger like cheap wine. He's noticed but discarded. Nietzsche's truth is clear. Women don't crave chaos or weakness. They crave the quiet storm, the man who carries power like a hidden weapon. You could wound with a word, but you don't. You could walk away, and she knows it. That restraint is your strength. Today, this balance is rare. Social media rewards the loud, the brash, the desperate. Men overshare, overreact, or overcompensate, thinking it proves their worth. But Nietzsche would call this noise. True power whispers. It's in the way you hold her gaze without flinching. It's in the silence you wield when she tests you. It's in the calm certainty of a man who knows his strength but doesn't need to flaunt it. You're not the jerk, you're not the doormat, you're the man who could break her world but chooses to build his own. This control isn't cold, it's magnetic. She feels the danger in you, the man who could walk through fire without burning, not because you're heartless, but because you're grounded. You've mastered the beast within. In a world of tantrums and thirst traps, this makes you rare. You don't shout your power, you live it. And she can't forget the man who moves like a king without raising his voice. The fire of Nietzsche's truth is spreading through you. You see the dance of power now, the test women wield not to harm, but to measure. You've learned to stand unshaken, to forge yourself, to wield strength with restraint. Most men are still lost, chasing shadows of approval, reacting to every spark of drama. But you're carving a path through the noise. Nietzsche's controversial truth about women isn't a map to win their hearts. It's a blade to cut through your weaknesses. His words burn because they demand more. Not from her, but from you. Become the man who doesn't flinch, doesn't chase, doesn't break. This is the way of the Übermensch, the man who creates his own crown. Wielding silence as a weapon. Nietzsche knew words are cheap. Most men spill them like water, explaining, defending, begging to be understood. But he saw silence as a force, sharp, heavy, untouchable. In the dance with women, silence is your greatest ally. She tests you with words, with silence of her own, with tension you can feel in your bones. Your instinct is to fill the void, to text, to argue, to prove. But Nietzsche's truth is unrelenting. The man who speaks less holds more. Silence isn't weakness. It's strategy. It's power. You've felt this moment. She doesn't reply for hours. She throws a vague jab, waiting for your reaction. Most men rush in, typing novels, justifying their worth. They think words will win her. They're wrong. Nietzsche would stand still, letting the tension build. Why? Because silence forces reflection. It shifts the battlefield. She expects you to crack, to chase, to fill the quiet with your need. When you don't, she feels your weight, your mystery, your control. Today, silence is rarer than gold. Social media drowns us in noise. Endless texts, stories, posts. Men over-explain, overshare, over-apologize, thinking it builds connection. But Nietzsche's higher man knows better. You don't need to be understood. You need to be undeniable. She asks why you didn't call. You say, I was busy. No story, no excuse, just presence. She pushes for more and you give her less. Not to punish, but to show you're grounded. Your silence isn't empty, it's a storm she can't ignore. This isn't about playing hard to get, it's about being hard to shake. Silence creates space for her to wonder. Why isn't he chasing? Why doesn't he need me? That wonder is your power. Nietzsche's truth is clear. The man who holds his tongue holds the high ground. Stop filling the void. Let it breathe. Let her sit with it. The world leans toward the man who knows when to be still. Standing firm in your truth, Nietzsche lived for truth, not the fleeting kind swayed by emotions, but the solid kind carved from clarity. Women, he observed, often navigate through feeling. What's true in her moment can shift like sand. Blame becomes love, anger becomes need. Most men get swept away, arguing, doubting, bending to her emotional tide. But Nietzsche's truth is a mountain. Stand in what you know and let the waves crash against you. Truth doesn't chase. It endures. You've seen this trap. She says you're distant, selfish, not enough. Your instinct is to explain, to fix, to prove her wrong. But the moment you step into her frame, you lose your footing. Her emotions aren't your reality. Nietzsche's higher man doesn't fight feelings. He rises above them. You know your worth. You know your path. If she calls you cold, you know you're focused. If she says you don't care, you know you're disciplined. This isn't dismissal, it's strength. You honor her feelings, but you don't let them rewrite your truth. In today's world, this is harder. Emotions rule the digital age. A single post can spark a spiral of doubt. A heated text can pull you into hours of debate. Men apologize for truths they didn't break, bending to keep the peace. But Nietzsche would call this cowardice. Why? Because truth is your anchor. Without it, you're adrift. She'll test your truth, not to destroy it, but to feel its weight. When you stand firm, you become the rock she can't move, not because you fought, but because you stayed. This is the heart of Nietzsche's controversial truth. Power lies in clarity. You don't need her to agree. You need to know. Your truth isn't negotiable. It's not up for debate. In the storm of her emotions, you're the lighthouse, unshaken, guiding, certain. She may rage, she may cry, but deep down she respects the man who doesn't bend. Stand in your truth, and the world will adjust. You're no longer blind. Nietzsche's truth has carved a path through the fog. Relationships are a dance of power, and women test your strength not to break you, but to know you. You've learned to see the game, to master your need, to stand unshaken in emotional storms, to face your shadow, to forge yourself through growth, to wield silence like a blade, and to anchor yourself in truth. Most men are still trapped, chasing approval, reacting to tests, bending to the whims of others, but you're rising. Nietzsche's controversial truth about women isn't a playbook to manipulate. It's a fire to forge you into something greater. A man who doesn't beg, doesn't break, and never bows. His Übermensch doesn't chase crowns. He becomes one. Keep walking this path. The world will feel your weight. Creating your own world. Nietzsche didn't follow the world's rules. He built his own. He believed the highest man creates his own values, his own reality, and lets the world orbit around him. Most men do the opposite. They step into her world, bending to her pace, her emotions, her expectations. They abandon their mission for her smile, their purpose for her approval, but Nietzsche's truth is a thunderbolt. Stop chasing her reality. Build yours. Make it so rich, so unshakable, that she's drawn to it like a moth to flame. You've seen men lose themselves. They meet her and their world shifts. They tweak their goals, soften their edges, trade their fire for her warmth. But Nietzsche would call this surrender. The man who steps off his path for her is already lost. The higher man, he doesn't follow. He creates, he carves his kingdom, brick by brick, choice by choice. His work, his vision, his discipline, they're his gravity. She either rises to meet it or fades into the background.